Welcome to Jaime Lerner. It's really a great honor, I think, to have Jaime with us here speaking tonight. And it's been actually an extended honor because he's been working with a group of architecture and real estate students on a project in Brazil. And it's been, I think, for all of us, unbelievably refreshing. I mean, a little bit the problem with introducing Jaime is that he's what they used to call a legend, like a legend in rock and roll, a legend in architecture. But so I feel obliged to tell you things that you already know. But the thing about legends is you have to repeat these things. But before saying these things, I think my real point is that Jaime is just simply one of the warmest, most humorous, funniest, creative, and most intelligent people you'll ever get a chance to meet. So basically what's so important to understand is how nice this person is. And then if you take somebody that's so powerfully nice, so tender and smart, and put that person in a series of very key locations, political, strategic, economic, social, and so on, things happen. And things happen around that person that don't happen around other people. And I just want to insist that it has a lot to do with the pleasure it is to have a drink with Jaime, or to eat, or to talk, or to laugh. That's the pleasure that cities have had, or institutions have had, or states have had, or even architecture as a field has had. So in every way, Jaime is a leader, quite literally a leader, like the mayor of Curitiba 3 times. It's actually sort of impossible to do that. It's impossible to be the mayor of a Brazilian city 3 times, in different times. Governor of the state of Parana 2 times. Again, it's impossible. It's not possible. Then the president of the UIA, so that's the worst of all. The head of all the architects, the International Union of Architects. So really a leader, but in a much more important sense, a leader in ideas. Ideas that have become almost standard practice, like, of course, the bus rapid transit system in the late 80s. But there were actually many ideas before that. The idea of turning floodplains into parks, the ideas of exchanging trash for groceries, the idea of saying to fishermen that they could fish for trash and would be treated the same as fish, actually more valuable. So instead of fishing for fish, they should fish for the trash that's making it difficult for the fish to live. And eventually then they could fish again. And again, as governor, very similar inventions in industry, in education, and so on. Always, it's something like big ideas and small budgets, which I can tell you is our language here in the school. We overcompensate for the size of our budget with the size of our ideas, for sure. So in this sense, you are a legend to us. Countless awards. It would be boring to list the awards, but I think maybe to listen to the sound of the kinds of awards. United Nations Environmental Award on the one hand, on the other hand, the Child and Peace Award from UNICEF. So each time, actually the award is in an entirely different area. The World Technology Award for transportation, right? So it's starting to be an annoying person. It's kind of irritating that you can win awards in all of these different areas. At least you should be a superstar in one area, but not all of these areas. Leave something for us, something small. Something small with a big budget, maybe, the other way around. Anyway, of course, all this just to say how nice, how genuinely nice it is to be partners with Jaime during this semester, and partners in a deeper sense, because we are, of course, increasingly active in Brazil. We are students of Brazil and students in Brazil. And so in a way to have a great architect of Brazil be literally a teacher here in the school is helping us to understand in which way we would be students of Brazil as Brazil takes on this very crucial leadership role. Brazil, of course, has long had this reputation of being intensely beautiful and intensely troubled. Somehow these two stories are both very stupid, it seems to me, and both stop people from understanding the extent to which Brazil is acting as an incubator for new forms of intelligence. And if you're even half serious about the future of cities, you have to understand cities in Brazil, and you have to understand what Brazilians are doing and thinking about those cities. And that's where the real lessons for a school like ours will have. So this is why having Jaime here today is such such a natural way to begin our so-called Brazil week. And actually, if Jaime's buses were supposed to have 270 people, but actually have 300 Brazilians, our week, which should be only 7 days, is actually 10 days. So we have 10 Brazilian days, starting with Jaime and going through a whole series of films and exhibitions and lectures and so on. In a way, it's a kind of a boot camp about the relationship Brazil-New York. It's just an attempt to synchronize our thoughts and our friendships, and it's meant to act as a kind of a platform. You may or may not know, but at the same moment we are opening research capacity both in Rio and in São Paulo with Studio X Rio and São Paulo Lab, and in a sense we are looking for the help of everybody in this room. We have no idea what's going to happen, which is why we call it X. We just have no idea. If we knew what was going to happen, we wouldn't be there. What's absolutely great about Brazil is impossible to know what's going to happen. It's one of the places you'd be a fool if you thought you knew what was going to happen. We're a different kind of fool, and so we feel we should be in the parts of the world where our stupidity is greatest, and Brazil is one of those places. Anyway, long introduction. Stupid introduction to a non-stupid person, Jaime.
Thank you. It's been really a pleasure on sharing with you some ideas, and thanks to the people that made this possible. And but I'd like to start with a story I use every time when I'm going to some place and meeting mayors, planners, decision makers. I used to ask them, what about their city? What's the problem? So most of the mayors, decision makers, planners, they're saying, oh, it's impossible to solve to improve the quality of life for our city, because it's too big city. There are other people trying to say, our problem is education, healthcare, and what is normal regarding problems of cities. After I used to make a break and ask them, okay, now, what's your dream? And I had to, because some of them, they answered me, the dream is solving that kind of problems. But this is not enough. What is really the dream? Or I would say, what is the scenario that everyone, every citizen could understand this is a desirable dream, and they'll help you to make it happen. So always it has to be proposed a dream. I had this kind of answer from the governor in, you know I have a jacket, no? The only one. The governor of Perm, Russia, he answered me, well, after saying showing me all its problems. So, okay. So, and he gave me an idea. That's my dream. He asked me, my dream is at every mostly young people I would like that they wouldn't dream to move to Moscow because it's close to Siberia and it's cold. But it's an interesting city. So he gave me a good answer, a good dream. The mayor of Durango, Mexico, his dream is Durango should be the logistic pole of Mexico. I asked him why, because we have a good quality of life, and at the same time, we're close to the US north. We're in a very important location in the middle of the road between Mazatlan and Matamoros. Well, it's a very strategic position. So, and I asked him at that time, it was 5 years ago, so do you, had you had the chance to speak with the candidates for presidents in the US about your idea? Because, of course, he wanted to have investments and not having to build a wall between Mexico and the US. He answered, yes, I went to all the candidates and I spoke to them. So I think most of the work I was involved is on having dreams and how to make them happen. Because after a long time, I realized that after working for almost 35, 40 years in cities, I realized that every city in the world could improve its quality of life in less than 3 years. No matter is the scale of the city, no matter is the financial condition of this city, you can really improve the quality of life. It depends, of course, political will, it depends solidarity, it depends strategy, but mostly it depends on how to build, how to transform a problem in a solution, how to organize a good equation of co-responsibility. The other issue is it possible to have a sustainable city? I realized that every city that has a good quality of life they're almost sustainable. That means, because most of the people, there is a concern about sustainability. Of course, there is a concern about climate change, but how to make it happen? So I'm finishing 2,000 hours of seminars on sustainability. So I've been in many meetings about new materials, very important, but it's not enough. Or green buildings, but we cannot be so naive on having a green building, going from one green building to the other green building, and during the itinerary, the trip, we won't have a green city. So it's important, but from now on, it's important new sources of energy, but it's not enough. It's important recycling, reusing, it's not enough. What is the key issue? We have to understand that 75% of carbon emissions are related to the cities. It's on the concept of the city that we can be more effective. And it's very simple, because everyone wants to be sustainable. Banks, as long as their check book is from recycled materials, they advertising that the bank is sustainable. Or the people living in gated communities and they're planting some trees in São Paulo or in many cities in the world. They're saying we're living in a sustainable neighborhoods. It's not sustainable. And so the question is understanding what makes a city more sustainable. Using less your car, separating your garbage, and most important, living close to your work. That's the key issue. But the strategy, I would like to spend some time discussing with you. One thing, the best example of quality of life for me is the turtle. Because the turtle has the shell. It's an example of living, working, and moving together. At the same time, the shell of the turtle looks like an urban tessiture. So can you imagine if we'll cut the shell of the turtle, living here, working here, leisure here, the turtle, she's going to die. That's exactly what we're doing with our cities. Separating functions, separating people by income, by age, by religions. So I think the turtle should be, we should use, or we should dress T-shirts with the turtle from now on. But this another character from a book that I wrote about 20 years ago, trying to explain the city for children or teenagers, and this the automobile. It's a kind of guy who is invited to a party and he never wants to leave. The chairs are on the table and he never wants to leave. And he drinks a lot. And he coughs a lot. And at the same time, he's a very egotist guy because he cares only one or two or three people. I'm repeating, I know you know this saying, that the car is like our mother-in-law. We should have good relationship with our mother-in-law, but we cannot leave she'll command our lives. On the other hand, if the only woman in your life is your mother-in-law, you have a big problem. That's the accordion, the friendly bass, or the bandoneon for the Argentinians. They can carry 300 people, but it's on the Sweden rules is 270. It's 270 Sweden passengers, 300 Brazilians. But every city has a design. If it's radial, if it's linear, it has to have some design in the city. Curitiba has its design, Rio, like two birds kissing themselves. Oaxaca, San Francisco is very easy. Market Street, Van Ness, the waterfront. What is the design? It's a kind of strange archaeology where we're trying to have trying to link old roads and some spaces that we care of them, and linking them through a spine, which is a structure of living, working together, and moving together. So that's the design of Curitiba, and it's the where we have more density, where we can offer better quality of public transport. And this are the axes where we have living, working, moving, everything, and we have a good public transport. And this is, you know, by the way, the best saying about Curitiba was given by a driver who worked with me at the city hall and after when I was a governor. I asked him, let's go. Do you know Brasilia? So he told me, no, I've never been. So let's go. Let's go in my plane. You go. So I invite you to go to Brasilia. So, but he answered me, I never used a plane. I never traveled in a plane. So come. So when the plane was in a certain high, he looked to the city of Curitiba and he told me, it's like the model. So it's really, for me, it was, because he went many times to many discussions. We used the models of the city to discuss land use, and it looks like the model. So, and this is very simple. We didn't spend money on buying land or on expropriations. We used existing streets. We put the express buses in the central, and and these are the lines. This is very close to my house, and this is the evolution of the system. We started in '74 with 25,000 passengers a day. And this system is being improved and improved. And now we are transporting 2,300,000 passengers a day, which is almost the number of the subway of São Paulo, and which is more passengers than the subway of Rio and the railroad and the suburb railroad lines. And it's very simple. What gave a good performance to the system is these simple boarding tubes where you can pay before entering in the bus and you can board at the same level. It's like metronizing a bus or giving to the bus the same performance than a subway. And you see how it looks. It's glass. You can board easily, and there's a few subway systems that they don't have facilities for handicapped. And this small cylinder, it's the elevator that provides accessibility to like any other passenger. But we started this idea, it was in Rio when I worked for the year 2000 project. Our idea was linking the subway with the bus. And this connection will integrate the bus to the subway. And at that time, 25 years ago, the subway, they were against, and the private company that they are running the buses, they were against. And now, 25 years after, they contracted us to develop the same ideas. So, but even my feeling is the future is on surface. I don't want to prove or to try to go into this discussion which system is the best. I think if you have a subway, you have to have a smart subway. If you have a bus, you have to have a smart bus, a smart taxi, which is the taxi of London, where you can board immediately, or individual, or the bike. If you have to have a smart bike. And in France, they provided the bus as the bike as a part of a public transport, which is very clever. And I'm working now in a small car, which is called Doc Doc, where you can have individual transport with not owning the car. It's cars without ownership. It's the Doc Doc. This is the Velib. But what is the key issue on mobility? Never competing in the same space. You have to have, each system should feed the other one. And this is the Velib, and this is the Doc Doc. It's the smallest car in the world, 60 centimeters per. It's 1/4 of the size of the smart car, half of the width and a half of the length. And I can fit into this car. So this was the first prototype, the second prototype, the third, and now it's the most improved, the fourth, and we're working on the fifth prototype. And that's how it works. It's really small. And it's 1/6 of the size of the car. And this is how it works. Duck, 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 duck. So, and how it could be used in areas where you can have you can feed the system, the public system. You can organize better in downtown areas or in some dedicated areas. They can share with the bike lanes, the same, because it has a speed of 25 kilometers per hour and autonomy of 50 kilometers. And this is the system in Rio, the project for the Olympic Games. It has all the components, subway, BRTs, and by the way, we started, the first one was in Curitiba, 74. 25 years after Bogota, they did a wonderful job, wonderful work with the Transmillennium. 89. And now we're having 81 cities implementing the BRTs, including Seoul, Korea, Mexico City, many other cities. But the idea of how to integrate is glass with LED, how it works. This is the model. You're going to a concourse level, and after it's the same system. The vehicle is different. But you can imagine how it's going to show, how it's going to be in the landscape of Rio. At night, during the day it's not colored. Is it possible to have a city without periphery? That's the key issue, how we're taking advantage of a system of public transport in favor of the city. And that was the challenge we asked for in the studio to every Daniela and Trevor and myself. We asked the teams to propose how to link, because the whole idea is in São Paulo there are only 4 subway lines, and 84% of the people, the trips are on the surface. So we have to operate well the surface. But the suburb railroads, they are improving the system. So why not taking advantage of the network of the suburb railroad with a grand promenade above the level of the trains. And in this promenade, the area of green area, we could have the equivalent of 1.5 Central Park, the area of the Central Park. And the people, they could have a good quality of public transport, a promenade like a High Line, but huge, and in where you can link the new buildings, and you could have any kind of income along this promenade. What is the key issue? The big discussion between the private initiative in São Paulo and the public and the government, the city planning is the private initiative there is a pressure to build always in the same spaces. So, and this, it never, there is no way. So they asked our group to say, is it possible to have an idea about the design, how the new design of São Paulo, how we could have new possibilities and not having to pressure the same spaces. So we worked in this idea, and probably the studio here, they're working in better ideas. But the idea is, it's not having a periphery. You can link to this promenade any kind of income, any kind of use. And it could be this way, or you'll see in the 28 new ideas from the studios. The whole idea is having bike lanes, or a huge park, and or the electric car, and you could link, and the private initiative having the possibility to build higher building, they could pay this, they could make it feasible to pay this structure that would link the whole city through a park. And that's the idea. And here at the Columbia University, there are many, many great ideas from the studio, which is being linked with the real estate area, and you're going to see in the next days. But that's this was the challenge. It's not, I'm not saying this is going to be in this way. It's a challenge how you could link to this structure. You'll see many different and better ideas. This in downtown area, the proposal we did, and But let's go on to the discussion of sustainability. Yes, is it possible to transform a city from a half square meter of green area in a few years in 50 square meter of green area per inhabitant? This was done through very simple ways. If we'll have time, we could detail how we could improve in a few years to change from a half square meter of green area per inhabitant to 50, and the population tripled. That means it's 300 times more. And the parks are that we're having huge problems of floods in Brazil. One of the few cities that doesn't have is Curitiba, because you organize the parks as a complex how to control the level of the water. And we took all quarries, were recycled, and this is the Open University for Environment. The architecture is interesting. We bought wooden poles from the energy companies when they changed for concrete poles, and we had a stock of wooden poles. All the architecture in the parks is with treated poles. And this is the botanic garden. How long it takes to build a botanic garden? 100 years. This botanic garden was built in 3 months. But there is no miracle, because we're going to plant for 100 years, but there is a part of the botanic garden that could be used immediately. And that's the program of trading, the whole program of garbage, that it's note how to, we started buying garbage in places where it's difficult to access for the trucks. And you know now, most of the disasters in Rio are related to garbage that was thrown because there was no collect. So the whole idea is we proposed is we're going to buy garbage as long as you bring your garbage straight to the trucks. And from this program we started after to separate the garbage and to trade garbage by food, and many, garbage is becoming a big issue in my city. But, and we transformed a problem of 130, that means in 1/3 of the problem. Because 1/3 is it's organic, 1/3 is organic that can be organic garbage that can be transformed in organic compost, and 1/3 is recyclable. So it's becoming and we teach the children during 6 months in every school, every child. And this, it was, you know, it's not a program on the TV where you heard the voice of God saying the government of the city of Curitiba is doing that and that. It's through the family lives. We teach in all the schools the children, and the children during 6 months. And after the children, they teach their parents, and after we started the campaign. That's why, since 20 years, we have the largest rate of separation of garbage in the world, 60 to 70% of it. And that's why I am obsessed about the idea how to teach sustainability to children. We finished recently a movie 1 year ago. It's a 6-minute movie. It's called A Convenient Start. You can look at the YouTube. And this shows how the children, how they can help, how they can understand about sustainability. Another issue is, okay, it's important, one, use less your car. At least, I'm not saying don't use your car. I'm saying at least on routine itineraries. And the cities, they will have to provide a good alternative in public transport. Use less your car, separate your garbage, and live closer to your work, or bring work closer to home. And also multiple use. We know street fairs, but at night it's much better because the families, they meet, and it's incredible alive. And another issue is about identity. I used to say that when you want creativity, just cut 1 zero from your budget. If you want sustainability, cut 2 zeros from your budget. If you want solidarity, keep your identity respecting diversity. And you know, a city is like a family portrait. You never rip your family portrait. Either if you don't like the nose of an uncle, you don't rip your family portrait because this portrait, it's you. And what is the family portrait in a city? Some references, buildings, old factories, any kind that helps you to have the reference of the city. This was an old powder house, was transformed in a theater in 1971. The whole historic area, which is mostly German influence, it was restored. The pedestrian mall, you know the story about it was implemented in 72 hours. And I can tell you, it's very important to being fast. Why? Because one is to avoid your own bureaucracy. Second, it's once the decision making is done, once the discussion was done, you have to do it immediately. And the third is, sometimes you have to avoid insecurity. Because sometimes you have a very good idea and you start to think, probably this idea is not so good because it's mine. And you have to understand that innovation is starting. You know, I know people, they feel more safe or more secure if they have all the answers. But we cannot be so prepotent on having all the answers. A city planning is like a trajectory where you cannot have all the answers. You have to leave some room to people. They should correct you if you're not in the right track. So, and it's a trajectory. But in many cities, the people, they want to have all the answers. So that kind of research, origin and destiny, where they are projecting the tendency. If you project the tendency, if you project the tragedy, you will have the tragedy. That's not a big deal on having this kind of survey. So you can write a whole tractate how to swim. Move your arms and legs at the same time. But at the moment when you dive in the water, it was so easy. When I was a teenager, I used to read tractates about sex. So after I realized, it's not so difficult. So that's the place where we're showing the history of the city. And, you know, Curitiba has 317, its age is 317 years. And during the 300th anniversary, we wanted to pay homage to our ethnic contribution. Like here in New York, big ethnic contribution. So it was a competition to the portal for the Italians and the Ukrainian park and the Polish park where the Pope, he went to Curitiba. It was wonderful. In 1980, I was having a drink with some friends, and I was a mayor at that time, and I told the guys, look, I have to leave because I have a meeting with the Pope. I had this meeting. So this is the Pope's Park, and the Japanese Square, and the German park. And since we have people from everywhere, from Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, so we had to stop the program because we didn't have money enough to build. But I realized that there are some places that they are very ugly in the city, but they can be transformed in beautiful places. This was a quarry, terrible quarry. This quarry was transformed in a beautiful building at the Open University of Environment. This another quarry that was transformed in a theater, and it was 2 months it took the works. And it was built legally. So we made a bid just for the material, another bid for the manpower. In 2 months we finished the theater, and it's a beautiful theater. Or this landfill is becoming a beautiful park. It started as a landfill. What I would like to give you some examples about acupuncture. Sometimes planning takes time, and it has to take time. But sometimes you can, through some focal points, focal ideas, you can provide a new energy that could help the whole process of planning. It's what I call urban acupuncture. It's not instead of the process of planning. It's to help the process of planning. And I give you some beautiful examples of beautiful acupunctures. In France, the EMPs at the Louvre, he solved with one gest, he solved problems of centuries. And this is the most beautiful park in New York. The Paley Park is 13 meters per 32 meters. It has not to be big. This is the Niemeyer's museum in Curitiba. It's really a beautiful museum. Or some acupunctures that our office we're doing. This is the pavilion, the Bossa Nova Park, and where we'll have the whole story of the Bossa Nova. You know, Bossa Nova is the soundtrack of Rio. It's like a keyboard with the balance of the waves of the sea, of doce balanço do mar. And that's the story it's going to show. They're going to start this building. But some ideas, some of them were the Fittipaldi, big car racer in Brazil. He asked for a project about mobility, about speed. This is freezed speed, and that was the idea about the Museum of Mobility. The Sustainable Museum is through some games we try to show, teach the children how long it takes, how many carbon emissions from their house to the school in one trip, in 1 year, in 10 years, and it will show in the ozone layer of, that was the idea. And in the cube, the artist will show, will explain, will teach the children about sustainability. And this is the project we did for São Paulo. It didn't work, but it's a huge park above the buildings that will link to the park La Luz, which is a beautiful place. This is a kind of quay where we try to link the area of the market, big market in São Paulo. But the idea I want to show you is sometimes you have a place which is decaying. So how long it will take to restore houses, to make it more, because revitalizing is bringing, it's living again, bringing life. So people, they won't move because we have the 3 best anchors, cultural anchors of São Paulo. The Pinacotheque, the Museum of Portuguese Language, the Auditorium. But the area, it's called Crackland. It's terrible. It's very, so how could we bring life again to this area? The idea was through portable streets, to bring, because nobody wants to live in this area because there is no street life. The idea is bringing street life on Friday night and removing the portable street on Monday morning. And during the week, the portable street will be in front of a university. And this is another acupuncture. It's a theater in Campinas. And this is a project where I was appointed by Oscar Niemeyer to propose for the 50th anniversary of Brasilia how to organize the satellite cities. Because you have a very formal city, which is the pilot plant. It looks like a plane close to the lake. But it's formal. And how could we give a form to the chaotic agglomeration of Brasilia, where we have people living, 500,000 people living in the pilot plant, and 2,500,000 people living outside and working in this area. So it takes 2 hours to go home, and it shouldn't be that way. So we proposed a design for the satellite cities, which is a kind of analogy of the metaphor of the plane and with the birds. This is the design of the the valleys and the parks. And we should have the new buildings along the edge of the parks. And we're gonna have just one boulevard linking the two parts, the formal and the new area, the new place, through these green buildings and the portable streets and this street, this boulevard. This is a park we made a project. Sometimes some parks are overbuilt because they think they have to build all the parks and to build fences. The best fence is a cycleway, and you don't have to spend a fortune. And just with 4 or 5 points, you can have a beautiful park. You should have some room to the landscape and not try to build the whole park. And that's the idea. You know, the project in Valencia of the Ombractum from Calatrava. Calatrava is a genius. But, you know, we didn't have the money to build an Ombractum structure. The Ombractum we did is a square of shade. It's with bouquets of bamboos. Very simple, very low. The cost is nothing. And I have an architect who works in my office. He knows everything about bamboos. He knows when the bamboo has depression, when the bamboo is sad. He knows when you have to cut the bamboo. And that's the square of shades in this park. And this, we recycled an old cistern, the old reservoir of water from the city. It was transformed in a museum. And there's one thing, being sustainable is not spending, it's not wasting. You know, some exhibitions, park of exhibits, center of exhibitions. So they ask us to build a place for 10,000 people. So you're crazy, you're not going to build a place for 10,000 people. You have a wonderful climate, wonderful patios. Why not having just small 4 auditoriums? And when you have the need for 10,000 people, they can just be in the patio. You don't have to spend. And this is the design we're doing for Luanda, Angola. It's incredible. It's just the walking area. But our contract was how to make better the streets. And we designed these areas, and it's incredible. The people are going at night. They're staying the whole night in those streets. They like, and these are some of the projects we did for Luanda. Oh, this is a place, David is the second city in Panama. And they have a kind of sanctuary. And so only with the design of the steps, we could have this landscape. So during the processions, everyone could have, it's not urban furniture, it's human furniture. So it's the only design are the steps. This recent project we did in Santiago Los Caballeros. We made a charrette, 1-week charrette. We worked with the architects of the city, the politicians, all the students. And the question was how to save the big river that crosses the whole city. It's the 500th anniversary of this city. It's the second city in the Dominican Republic. And how to save the river So at the end of this week, we propose two ideas. The way how to save the river, and also the Rio Yaque. At the end, we finished singing a merengue about Yaque. And at the old airport, we transformed the idea as a nursery. How do you say? In the botanic garden, a place for the plants. And the other side is for shows. Normally, a place for shows is just like a parking area. But we designed the camarotes, how do you say? The special, we designed the columns that gave the perspective of a theater. It's not a parking place. And it's going to be a beautiful place. So two ideas. And there's another, which is how every turn it will show 50 years of the anniversary of the city. And this is now the last project we're doing in Mazatlan. It's an island in front of the old city. And it's a place with 0 cars. And our proposal is not to touch the dunes, not to touch the vegetation, just not touching the terrain. And it's going to be this way. 0 car, just bicycles, electric cars, horses, and of course, Vaporetto linking the old city with the island. And this is they have an interesting thing, which is it's moduled, the whole island is moduled with palm trees every 10 meters. So we took advantage of this design and we proposed a whole sustainable way how to have all the places, and at the same time the infrastructure, and this is interesting. They have a hill that was cut, and they took the rocks to build the pier, but they cut a half of the hill. Since the program, they wanted a hotel, and not having to build a huge hotel in a so beautiful place, we proposed how to fulfill the landscape of the hill with the hotel. It's going to look this way. Okay. Now it's the idea of the portable streets. It's like the idea came from Paris, the bouquinistes. So we designed this idea, which is at the same time a model for the portable street, a bus shelter, a newsstand, a working station, hotels in airports, a resting place in our airports, living and working stations, the dog, living, working, moving. And that is the idea. The proposal we did for Rio with the port in the port or the Lapa area. And this is the prototype. And this is during a festival of theater. We have 12 prototypes. Now we're going to build really in a large scale. And it's beautiful. You could put a coffee store or a beautiful store, a Prada store in all. It's LED, and they have beautiful windows. And this is a module for the airport. And this is the Turtle Man. My dream is having the house in my back. And this is the way how. So, to finishing, I'm in the year 97, we organized, we didn't have Olympic Games in that year, or World Cup, or any kind of games. So we wanted to organize the World Nature Games. We had just 6 months to organize. But we organized these games. We had 40 countries, 120 TV stations showing the World Games of Nature. We didn't spend 1 cent in building stadiums, gymnasiums, because the place was the nature. Ballooning, rafting, climbing the water from the waterfall, climbing the wall from the waterfall. So this is sustainability. Or we didn't have, we have 399 municipalities in my state, with some municipalities from 3,000, 5,000 people. We didn't have money to build theaters. So we organized a cultural convoy. We took 10 buses, we recycled them, 10 old buses, 1 for opera, 1 for theater, 1 for music, 1 for dance, 1 for circus. And we had and this during 5 years, the cultural convoy traveled along all the roads of the state, and we had an average of 1,000 and 200 people every show. So let me, if you could turn on the lights, please. Let me finish with one saying. I'm convinced, after all these years, I'm convinced that it's possible. You can do it. All you need is to propose an idea, a scenario, that everyone understands it is desirable. If they understand it is desirable, they'll help you to make it happen. So, I'm a very lucky man. I could make many of my dreams come true. I'm not saying political dreams or professional dreams. I'm saying normal dreams. So I realized one thing. If sometimes you cannot make your dream come true, don't be frustrated. If you dedicate yourself deeply to your dream, you can be sure that one day, one time, this dream will turn around you, will hit you, and will ask you, you remember me? I'm your dream. It's your second chance. Don't throw it away. Thank you.
Like you talk of Toronto, Ontario, you talk of acupuncture. The new City Hall was built in 1965. I'm sure you're familiar with it.
Yeah.
A Finnish architect, Revel, I can't pronounce his first name, he died before it was completed. But that sort of revitalized the whole city. Toronto, I was there last in 95. I hear it's very, like what you talk about, very people-friendly, I've been there many times. Very good transport, good subways, good buses, and it's really people-friendly and ecologically friendly. So that might be a city that you would agree with. And you,
I agree. I agree. I went once to Toronto, and the mayor, he took me for a ride, and he asked, and he told me through the expressway, which is almost in front of the waterfront, almost in the waterfront. And he told me he was planning to remove the freeway, because everything behind the freeway is becoming decaying. So, okay, and I realized one thing. When we were traveling in the freeway, it's very high speed. So, but at the moment when we had to leave the freeway and to go to the normal path of the city, it took us more than 1 hour to leave the freeway. So sometimes the freeway is the fastest way to bring you from one place, from one jammed area to another jammed area. But I agree with you, it's a great city. And Vancouver is incredible, great city. They still have a street with movie theaters in Vancouver. They still have, they don't have, well, probably they have shopping center with movies number 1, number 2, number 3, Jaws number 17, but they have still old movie theaters where you can watch normal movies, not serial killers. By the way, I never saw a movie in France or in Spain showing you how to destroy the Louvre or how to destroy the Tour Eiffel. I never saw how to destroy the Notre Dame. Why here in this country you like to show how to destroy your great places? I don't know the answer. Any question? Any question?
Yeah. I have a practical question. How much does it cost to make one of your portable street market stalls?
Sorry.
How much does it cost to make the portable street unit?
What is the cost?
The cost.
Well, you can, I don't remember, but the unit is, it's about $3,000, $4,000, the model, $3,000 the model. But I can send you two for 2,000 too.
Is the Doc electric?
Electric. It's the concept. I'm not a car designer. I'm terrible. I'm not a car. What attracts me, it's a concept. So let's say if you buy a Chevrolet or a Volvo car or a Mitsubishi car, you'll earn 500 hours in the Doc. So it's not against the car. It's providing a new alternative. How to feed public transport with individual. It's docking, it's docked as a cell phone. That's the idea. What is the news? Last week I was discussing with the energy company, the biggest energy company on distribution of energy, and they want to invest to build this car because they can provide the energy. So they asked us a study for 20 cities, how to put public transport, how to link with some lines of the dock. Considering, of course, there are cities where they are working, where they are the distributors of the energy. But it's an idea. What strikes me is it's not only changing an engine for an electric engine, for an electric car, because you have to have in mind that you have to have clean energy. Second, it's not okay. You can save, you can better not having pollution with electric cars, but it wouldn't solve the problem of mobility, just changing from the engine. You have to have a concept how to use this gadget. So I think your last question.
Question about the Grand Promenade in São Paulo. In your rendering, they show the beautiful river and a free-flowing freeway. But I was wondering, that river is quite polluted and the freeway is quite congested. And what steps the city is taking to alleviate those problems because if you have a park along the river, no one's going to be able to use it if it's congested. And
I'm sorry,
He's saying that in the Sao Paulo project, you show a beautiful river and a beautiful freeway, but the freeway is actually congested and the river is actually polluted. Is the city going to help you?
I didn't show the freeway. I showed a park above the railroad path, suburb line path. It's not a freeway. Okay? Second, the river is not clean, but there is a way how to make it clean. So the better you use the river, the cleaner it will come. The problem is, all the projects, they want to build a whole project. I showed you the example of the city, Santiago de los Caballeros. They have a more important, considering the scale of the city, it's more important for them than any of the rivers from São Paulo. So what happens is it's dirty. But we know the feeder rivers, or feeder, how do you say, feeder streams.
Tributary.
Yeah, we know it's 5 or 6. Okay, so it's impossible to do all the works. Okay, first of all, avoid to start to clean the big river. So in the moment the small river comes to the big one, you have to start a small treatment. And from this place, so you with 6 small stations you can clean the river. And after, you'll have time to work for 20 years to clean all, how they say, the cañadas, the bottom valleys, how to clean. But in a few months, you can have the whole river, the big river, clean. That's important. So the question is drainage. The big problem in São Paulo is drainage. When they have big rains, there is no drainage enough. They have drainage, of course, but the speed, everything is paved. There is no way how to absorb the water. And we're working on some ideas. We'll see in a few months. Some ideas how to at least help to solve the problem. I'm not. But some of the disasters we had in Rio recently, it was because they moved, they changed, they worked in the terrain. So they threw the garbage. Some of the slides, it was sliding garbage that killed. Okay, and the other issue is doing some work on sewage treatment or water supply or energy. My feeling is not to touch the terrain. You can have a very low income, very low cost infrastructure not touching the terrain. The idea was, when we worked a long time ago in Caracas, the idea was using the rail, the handrail from the stairs. We used the handrails from the stairs for water supply and energy. Excuse me. And the sewage through the stairs that they give you the access to the hills. So through the handrails, you can link easily to every house, but not touching the terrain. I can tell you, it won't solve all the problems, of course not. But some of the problems they could solve through this way. Okay, last question.
So I was wondering what you thought of what's going on in New York City. In New York City, as far as Times Square goes, where 50 years ago, as a student here, that was one of the problems we did, as far as making it open to pedestrians and so forth. But it's taken 50 years to get to some place today where it's going on today. And it seems that architects are not involved and have never been that persuasive. You know, it's been the Robert Moses, non-architect, non-planner, say, to a Jane Jacobs who had to tell us all about it and all. So I was wondering, where does the influence or the power, what you want to call it maybe, of the architect planner, how can they get into it? Or are we just continually just making pretty drawings of wonderful buildings, and that's how we're known as?
Well, I hope you'll live for more 50 years to see if something is happening. My feeling is I've met many good mayors all over the world, many good governors. The problem is when regarding the cities, they delegate to the bureaucracy. And because it's okay where I take care only with politics, but this, when you're dealing with a city, you cannot delegate. You have to take this and do it. Because a bureaucrat, he has the whole life. He has the whole life. He doesn't care. He has no commitment to the city, has no commitment to the mayor. He doesn't care. Probably he wants to finish his doctorate, PhD, and as long as he's in work, it's okay for him. And most of them, they are very good professionals. All they need is a push, is commitment. But the mayor cannot delegate when regarding fundamental issues. But I'm now, a part of my life, I decided to having fun. Having fun is doing acupuncture. Because I can finish in one, I'm going with 3 or 4 architects to someplace. In 1 week I finish. I don't have to discuss big contracts. I don't want to sell consultant charges. My idea is, let's make a charrette, let's work together. And at the end, we'll leave 1 or 2 ideas. If you understand, if you like these ideas, you can do it by yourself, or you have a team of professionals in the place, or we can help them to make it happen. If they don't like the idea, there is no loss of money, no loss of time. We just charge a trip and a certain fee by professional. But I don't have to discuss with bureaucracy big contracts. I hate this. I have no time. The city of São Paulo, they're doing a big bid to contract big offices. To do what? Bureaucracy. If it's a competition, I would. Of course I would take part. But spending 2 years to make bureaucracy and being well paid, but what's the point? No. So when I was president of the UIA, it was the worst job I had. Because it's 1 million, they said it was 1,200,000 architects in the world. 1,200,000 egos. But I realized that we made one idea. The idea was the celebration of cities, which was that in every city there are architects, professionals, that they have a good idea for their own city. Why not having a competition of ideas? And we organized a competition all over the world. There's 400 cities we had. It was beautiful. And the Italian section of the UIA is taking care of the competition now, every 2 years. It's great. It's all you. I like a discussion when it starts with an idea. And an assembly is better when you start with an idea, or if you are against, or for, it depends. It's a game. Sometimes it's the community they start, sometimes it's the government, sometimes it's the planners. It doesn't matter. It has to have a start. And I won't take more time from you. And thank you. Thank you.